The twin suns of Ardentia glowed brightly in the violet sky, casting long shadows over the crystalline towers of the capital city. The streets were alive with color, bustling with aliens of every shape and size. Leora, the alien queen, walked gracefully through the central plaza, her silvery cloak flowing behind her. Citizens bowed as she passed, their eyes filled with admiration and respect. Leora was known for her wisdom, intelligence, and fairness. She ruled Ardentia with a mind as sharp as a blade and a heart full of compassion. Yet today, her mind was elsewhere. A human had arrived on Ardentia, a species she had read about but never truly encountered. His name was Ethan. Leora had agreed to meet him during a cultural exchange program. Humans, according to her studies, were simple compared to her species. They were smaller, weaker, and less advanced. But she could not deny the curiosity that had drawn her to him. Ethan was waiting in the palace courtyard, looking completely ordinary, or so it seemed. He was tall, with brown hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to shine with a quiet confidence. He wore simple clothing, unlike the elaborate garments of the Ardentian elite, but he carried himself with ease. When he saw Leora, he bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice calm and steady. "It is an honor to meet you." Leora nodded, intrigued by his polite manner and the subtle humor in his eyes. "The honor is mine, Ethan. I hope you find our world enlightening." Ethan smiled. "I already do. Your planet is unlike anything I have ever seen." As the days passed, Ethan explored the palace and the city with Leora as his guide. He marveled at the towering spires, the glowing gardens, and the alien technology that seemed almost magical. But what truly caught Leora's attention was not his amazement at Ardentia's wonders. It was the way he noticed details others overlooked. In the palace library, Ethan paused in front of a complex holographic display. "This system could be more efficient," he said casually, touching the control panel. "If you reroute the energy flow here and adjust this algorithm, the projection will stabilize, and maintenance will be simpler." Leora raised an eyebrow. No Ardentian had ever suggested improvements to such advanced systems. Most would have been too cautious, too proud, or too focused on tradition. But Ethan simply smiled and stepped back as if he had offered nothing more than a small suggestion. "Interesting," Leora said, genuinely impressed. "You have a keen mind for problem-solving, Ethan. That is unusual for your species." Ethan shrugged lightly. "We humans find ways to adapt. We think creatively. It is what keeps us alive in difficult situations." Leora could not help but smile at his confidence. She found herself enjoying his presence more than she expected. There was a warmth about him, a kind of simple honesty that contrasted with the calculated diplomacy of her advisors. The palace court, however, was less welcoming. Ardentian nobles whispered among themselves whenever Ethan entered the room. "A human?" they murmured. "Does the queen not see how weak he is?" Leora ignored them. She was curious, and that curiosity often led her to wisdom. Over time, she found herself laughing at Ethan's jokes, appreciating his insights and admiring his courage in small ways. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a deep shade of violet, Ethan and Leora walked through the palace gardens. Bioluminescent flowers glowed softly, and streams of water reflected the stars above. "Your gardens are beautiful," Ethan said, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant flora. "The colors, the patterns, it feels alive." "It is alive," Leora replied with a smile. "Every plant, every creature here has a purpose. Ardentia thrives because we honor balance and harmony." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "In many ways, humans are the same. We try to survive, adapt, and improve the world. Around us, sometimes we fail, but we keep trying." Leora studied him closely. There was a quiet strength in his words, a resilience she had not expected from someone so small in stature. She felt a flicker of admiration, and something more, something she had not anticipated. Weeks passed, and Ethan settled into life on Ardentia with surprising ease. He learned the language, adapted to the customs, and even participated in the court's strategic games, where alien leaders simulated planetary negotiations. To Leora's delight, Ethan often outperformed the best Ardentian tacticians. One day, the Queen invited Ethan to join a diplomatic meeting with representatives from a neighboring system. She watched as he observed carefully, listened attentively, and suggested compromises that no Ardentian would have considered. The aliens in the room were stunned. "He is ordinary," one advisor whispered nervously. "This human thinks in ways none of us can comprehend." Leora only smiled quietly, noting that Ethan's apparent simplicity was deceptive. Humans, she realized, possessed a subtle brilliance that could not be measured by strength or technology alone. As their time together continued, Leora and Ethan shared moments of quiet reflection. They walked along crystal bridges spanning glowing rivers, discussed philosophies under the stars, and exchanged stories of their worlds. Ethan's humor and kindness made Leora laugh in ways she had not since she became queen. His perspective, so different yet insightful, challenged her own ideas and expanded her understanding. Despite her growing admiration, Leora still believed she understood humans. They were clever, adaptable, but ultimately limited. She thought she had married an ordinary man, one who would charm her but never truly challenge her. Then came the first hint that Ethan was not as ordinary as he seemed. One evening, during a routine inspection of the city's energy conduits, a minor malfunction occurred. Lights flickered and alarms sounded. Ardentian engineers rushed to the scene, unsure how to fix the issue. Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Let me try something," he said. In moments, he analyzed the problem, adjusted several controls, and rerouted energy flows. The light stabilized and the alarm stopped. The engineers stared in disbelief. "How did he do that?" one whispered. Leora's eyes widened. She had expected competence, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. Ethan's solution was not only effective, it was elegant. Later, in the privacy of the palace gardens, Leora asked, "Ethan, how did you know what to do?" Ethan smiled modestly. "I just thought about it logically. Sometimes a fresh perspective helps. I suppose humans are good at seeing solutions others overlook." Leora felt a mixture of admiration and curiosity. She was beginning to see that the man she married, the one she believed ordinary, was quietly extraordinary. That night, as she looked out over the glowing city from her palace balcony, Leora realized something profound. Humans were not weaker or simpler, they were different. Their strength lay not in physical power or advanced technology, but in adaptability, creativity, and resilience. And Ethan, he embodied all of it. As she turned away from the balcony, she could not help but smile. She had married an ordinary human, or so she thought. Little did she know this was only the beginning. The ordinary man she knew had hidden depths, and the real power of humans, and of Ethan, was yet to be revealed. The next morning, the palace of Ardentia buzzed with quiet activity. Sunlight glimmered off the crystalline towers, casting colorful reflections across the courtyard. Queen Leora stood at the balcony, watching the citizens below prepare for the Festival of Light, a celebration of harmony and knowledge. She was pleased that Ethan had agreed to participate. The human's perspective, she realized, might offer something fresh to her people. Ethan, however, seemed completely unbothered by the grandeur around him. He walked through the palace gardens, observing the alien flora and occasionally touching a glowing flower with curiosity. Unlike most humans who might be overwhelmed by Ardentia's beauty, Ethan simply absorbed it, noticing patterns and structures as if studying a puzzle. "Do you always study everything like this?" Leora asked, a playful note in her voice. Ethan looked up, smiling gently. "I guess I notice things others might miss. It helps me understand the world better." Leora chuckled softly. There was something about his calm observation that made her feel at ease. Most Ardentians rushed through life focusing on status or appearances. Ethan seemed untouched by such concerns. As the festival began, the streets filled with color and music. Aliens of all shapes danced and celebrated, projecting energy patterns in the air that formed brilliant designs. Leora moved among the citizens, proud to see them joyful and united. Ethan followed, quietly observing, occasionally offering small suggestions that improved the flow of people and activities. "Try moving the banners higher," he said softly to an organizer. "It will make the crowd feel more open and they won't block the light displays." The alien smiled, clearly impressed. "Interesting. That does make it feel larger." Leora watched Ethan with growing admiration. Even in small ways, he was improving life around him. Yet she still thought of him as human, curious, clever, but limited. She did not realize that his ordinary appearance hid something extraordinary. Later, during a break in the festival, Leora invited Ethan to walk along the crystal bridge that spanned the River of Lights. Water flowed beneath, reflecting the twin suns and the sparkling city. "You seem to understand our people quickly," she said. "Do you always adapt so easily?" Ethan smiled. "Humans learn from experience. We pay attention to patterns, try new things, and adjust when necessary. Maybe that is why we survive so often in difficult situations." Leora's eyes softened. "It is remarkable and rare among other species." Ethan's gaze lingered on the horizon. "I think every species has strengths. Humans are just different." The Queen nodded thoughtfully. She had begun to notice it herself. The subtle ways humans think and act, so unlike Ardentians. Where her people relied on technology and ritual, humans relied on creativity and intuition. That evening, while walking through the palace corridors, a minor emergency occurred. A transport drone malfunctioned in the central plaza, its energy core unstable. Panic spread among the palace engineers as they tried to control the situation. Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Move back, let me try something." The engineers hesitated, but Leora trusted him. She moved to a safe distance and watched. Ethan analyzed the energy flow with a careful eye, adjusting controls in ways that no Ardentian would have thought of. Within moments, the drone stabilized and the engineers stared in disbelief. "How did you do that?" one asked, awestruck. Ethan shrugged modestly. "Sometimes looking at a problem differently helps." Leora's heart swelled with pride and curiosity. She realized that Ethan's mind worked in ways far beyond what she had imagined. Humans were not weaker. They were uniquely adaptable, capable of solving problems in ways even advanced aliens could not predict. The following days brought more examples of Ethan's quiet brilliance. He helped design a more efficient irrigation system for the palace gardens, suggested improvements to public transport, and even mediated minor disputes among citizens with patience and wisdom. Each time, the results were subtle, but profoundly effective. One afternoon, Leora invited Ethan to join her in the council chamber for a discussion with her advisors. The topic was interstellar trade routes, a complex system that required balancing resources, security, and diplomacy. Leora's advisors, confident in their calculations, presented their plans, but Ethan listened quietly. After a moment, he raised a hand. "What if you consider the timing of the planetary rotations? Shifting the trade schedule slightly could reduce energy expenditure and increase safety." The advisors blinked in surprise. None had considered the natural cycles in their calculations. Leora's brow lifted. Ethan's suggestion was simple yet elegant, a human solution that improved efficiency while maintaining balance. "You see?" Leora whispered to herself. "He is more than ordinary." The council approved Ethan's plan, and the results were immediate. Trade became smoother, transport safer, and the citizens more content. Word of Ethan's ingenuity spread quickly, and soon even the most skeptical advisors began to see humans in a new light. Yet, despite his remarkable intelligence, Ethan never acted superior. He laughed with citizens, helped children learn games, and shared simple human stories with the Queen. His humility, combined with brilliance, made him endearing to all. One night, Leora and Ethan stood under the glow of the twin moons, observing a meteor shower. "Do you ever wonder about your own limits?" Leora asked quietly. Ethan considered her question. "Limits? Humans have limits, yes, but we also find ways to grow beyond them. I believe any species can do that if They try. The trick is to see the possibilities, not just the obstacles. Leora felt a shiver of understanding. Ethan's perspective was different, not just clever, but powerful in its simplicity. He viewed challenges as opportunities, not threats. The next day, a minor political crisis arose. A neighboring planet disputed Ardentia's claim over a mining asteroid. The Ardentian military prepared for conflict, but Ethan suggested a different approach. "Why not offer a joint mining operation?" he asked. "It will benefit both planets and prevent unnecessary tension." Leora's advisors scoffed. "And risk losing our control?" Ethan shook his head. "Control is temporary. Cooperation builds trust, and trust strengthens influence far more than force ever could." Reluctantly, Leora allowed him to present the idea to the council. To everyone's surprise, the other planet agreed. The crisis ended peacefully, and Ardentia's reputation as a wise and fair leader grew. That evening, Leora reflected on everything she had seen. Ethan's intelligence, creativity, and adaptability were remarkable, but it was more than that. His presence inspired those around him, bringing out their best qualities. Humans, she realized, possessed a quiet strength unlike any other. Yet, for all his brilliance, Ethan still appeared ordinary. He cooked simple meals in the palace kitchens, played games with children, and laughed at jokes. There was no display of power, no sign of the extraordinary abilities he might possess. He seemed content to live among Ardentians as a normal human, blending in while quietly changing the world around him. Leora's feelings grew more complicated. She admired him, yes, but she also wondered what lay beneath that calm, ordinary exterior. Was there more to him than she realized? Could he possess abilities beyond the human norm, powers hidden even from himself? She decided to observe him more closely, not with suspicion but with curiosity. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be a source of both challenge and wonder. Ethan's ordinary demeanor masked extraordinary potential, and Leora wanted to understand it fully. Over the next few weeks, Ethan continued to impress without trying. He solved minor engineering problems, mediated disputes, and offered advice that subtly improved life for Ardentians. He never boasted, never demanded attention. Yet every action seemed to hint at a depth beyond what Leora, or anyone, could comprehend. Then came a small incident that left the Queen both astonished and uneasy. During a simple practice drill with the city's defense systems, Ethan noticed a flaw in the energy shields surrounding the palace. He casually adjusted several controls, and the shields became stronger, more stable, and more efficient. "Ethan," Leora whispered later, her mind racing. "How did you know how to do that?" He smiled softly. "I just looked at the problem differently. Humans often find solutions by seeing patterns others ignore." Leora nodded, though her heart raced. She realized she had underestimated the human she married. He was ordinary in appearance, simple in demeanor, but his mind was extraordinary, and she had only seen a fraction of his potential. As night fell and the palace lights shimmered against the violet sky, Leora stood on her balcony once more. She gazed at Ethan quietly, talking to a group of young aliens, teaching them human games and lessons in logic and creativity. She could not help but feel awe and anticipation. The ordinary human she thought she knew was slowly revealing himself, piece by piece. And when the time came, she suspected that his true power, human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, would astonish not just her, but the entire world. Little did Leora know, the hints she had witnessed were only the beginning. Ethan's true capabilities, the kind that could change the fate of Ardentia and beyond, were waiting to emerge. The morning light spilled over Ardentia's towering spires, making the crystal towers shimmer like precious gems. Queen Leora stood on the balcony of her palace, gazing at the bustling city below. Today was not just any day. Today was the beginning of a crucial festival that drew representatives from neighboring star systems. Ardentia prided itself on its diplomacy, and Leora had prepared for weeks to impress the visiting dignitaries. Ethan, as usual, walked beside her, calm and observant. He had already learned the names, ranks, and customs of every visitor and palace official. Unlike most humans who might have felt overwhelmed by such a complex environment, Ethan absorbed it like a sponge, quietly processing information and thinking ahead. "Do you think they will like our city?" Ethan asked, glancing at the streets below. "They will be impressed," Leora replied, smiling. "Ardentia is beautiful, but I hope they also see our intelligence and wisdom." Ethan nodded. "Sometimes people remember how you solve problems more than how you look. First impressions matter, but actions last longer." Leora felt a stir of pride. Ethan's insight was simple yet profound, and she realized again that humans often saw the world differently than aliens. The festival began with fanfare. Visitors from dozens of star systems arrived in sleek ships, and the streets filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Music and lights danced across the plaza, and holographic displays highlighted Ardentia's history and achievements. Leora greeted each dignitary with grace, introducing Ethan as her human advisor and husband. Most visitors paid polite attention, but a few seemed skeptical. Humans were often underestimated in interstellar diplomacy, considered fragile and limited. Ethan, however, moved among the guests with quiet confidence, asking questions, offering suggestions, and noticing things no one else did. During a demonstration of Ardentia's energy shield system, a key part of the city's defense, a minor, technical problem arose. The shields flickered unpredictably, causing concern among the engineers. Panic began to spread, even among the visiting delegates. Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Let me see," he said. He crouched beside the control console, eyes scanning the complex readouts. With steady hands, he adjusted several settings, rerouted energy flows, and introduced a minor modification that balanced the system perfectly. The shield stabilized, glowing with a steady, powerful light. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Delegates murmured among themselves, astonished by the simplicity and effectiveness of his solution. None of the Ardentian engineers could explain exactly what he had done differently. Leora watched him in amazement. Ethan had intervened quietly, without fanfare or ego, yet his action had averted a potential embarrassment for the queen and her city. She felt a growing sense of awe. Later, in private, she asked him, "Ethan, how do you always see the solution so quickly?" Ethan smiled modestly. "I just look at the problem differently. Humans often approach things in ways others don't think of. We rely on intuition, creativity, and trial and error. Sometimes the answer is simple, but no one sees it at first." Leora nodded, her mind racing. She had always thought humans were clever, but this was extraordinary. Not strength or speed, not advanced technology, just pure, adaptable intelligence. As the festival continued, another challenge appeared. A minor misunderstanding arose between two visiting delegations. Words were exchanged, and tensions began to rise. Aliens around Leora started whispering anxiously, unsure how. To calm the situation, Ethan stepped in. "Let's focus on shared goals," he said, addressing the delegates. "You both want to protect your resources and people, yes? If we look for solutions that benefit both sides, no one loses, and everyone gains." He suggested a compromise that included resource sharing and joint oversight, presenting it in a calm, logical manner. The delegations hesitated, then agreed. What seemed like a potential diplomatic disaster ended peacefully, and the visiting dignitaries left impressed with Ardentia's leadership and the wisdom of the human advisor. Leora could hardly contain her amazement. Ethan had not only solved a technical problem, but also handled a diplomatic crisis with elegance and intelligence. She began to realize that humans were far more capable than most Ardentians believed. That evening, after the festival ended, Leora and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The bioluminescent flowers glowed softly, casting a gentle light over the marble paths. "You're extraordinary," Leora said quietly, her voice full of admiration. Ethan shook his head, smiling. "I'm just a human. Humans adapt, humans learn, and humans persevere, that's all. You are more than that, Leora insisted. You have shown intelligence, courage, and creativity that far exceed anything I expected. Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. Perhaps it's because I am human. We often survive in situations that others cannot. We think quickly, improvise, and sometimes succeed where more advanced beings fail. Leora felt a thrill of understanding. She had married a man she thought ordinary, yet he had already saved her city from embarrassment and potential conflict. There was more to him. She could sense it. The next morning, a new challenge arrived in the form of a security drill. The palace's defense system simulated a small-scale invasion to test readiness. Engineers and soldiers prepared, running through standard procedures. Leora watched with interest, curious to see how humans might contribute. Ethan observed quietly, at first noting patterns in the simulations. He spotted minor weaknesses in timing and coordination that Ardentian planners had overlooked. Try adjusting these units here, he suggested to a captain, and have that squad monitor the eastern approach instead of the western. The simulation shows a higher probability of intrusion from this direction. The Ardentians hesitated but followed his advice. The drill proceeded smoothly, with fewer errors than ever before. Leora noticed that soldiers and engineers now looked at Ethan with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "It's incredible," whispered one young officer. "He's human, yet he sees everything we miss." Ethan remained modest, offering simple explanations and teaching others how to think creatively. He was patient, calm, and encouraging. Leora realized that his power was not flashy or violent. It was the ability to improve the world around him through thought, insight, and guidance. Later, as the sun set, Leora and Ethan sat by a reflecting pool in the gardens. The sky was streaked, with colors from the twin suns, and the water shimmered like liquid crystal. "Have you ever considered the full potential of humans?" Leora asked softly. Ethan shook his head. "Most humans do not. We survive, adapt, and create in ways that seem small or ordinary. But sometimes our combined efforts can achieve something remarkable." Leora's mind whirled. She had underestimated the species she had married. Humans were not simple, weak, or limited. They were adaptable, inventive, and quietly powerful. Over the next few days, Ethan continued to display subtle signs of his abilities. He mediated conflicts, optimized energy systems, and taught children human problem-solving games that challenged even the most advanced Ardentian minds. His actions inspired others to think differently, to adapt, and to grow. Leora watched closely, feeling a mixture of admiration and anticipation. She realized that Ethan's apparent ordinary nature was only a mask for extraordinary potential. Humans, she now understood, possessed a type of strength the galaxy had rarely seen. Not physical strength, not weapons or armor, but mental agility, courage, and creativity. One evening, as they walked along the River of Lights, Ethan paused to watch a group of young aliens learning human logic puzzles. The children's eyes sparkled as they solved problems, laughed, and celebrated small victories. "See what I mean?" Ethan said quietly. "Humans learn by trial and error. We keep trying, we adapt, and sometimes we find solutions that others overlook." Leora nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride, not just for Ethan, but for the human race. She realized that her people had underestimated humans, and perhaps the galaxy had too. That night, as Leora looked out over the glowing city from her balcony, she felt a quiet excitement. The ordinary man she had married had already begun to reveal himself. His intelligence, creativity, and calm courage had changed Ardentia in subtle but profound ways. And she knew, though she did not yet fully understand, the human's true power had only begun to awaken. The hints she had seen so far, the solutions, the insights, the calm bravery, were the beginning of something greater. Ethan's potential, hidden beneath an ordinary exterior, was extraordinary. Leora's heart raced with anticipation. The human beside her, whom she had thought ordinary, was quietly shaping the destiny of her city and her people. And when that full measure of his power was revealed, the galaxy itself would have to take notice. For now, Ethan remained humble, patient, and seemingly ordinary. But Queen Leora knew the truth. The first revelation had come. The ordinary human was extraordinary, and his real power would soon change everything. The sky above Ardentia was painted in shades of violet and gold as the twin suns began to set. For days, the planet had been experiencing unusual energy fluctuations. Leora's advisors had tried to maintain stability, but their calculations failed again and again. The disturbance threatened not only the city but the entire planet. Panic rippled through the palace as alarms rang, and citizens looked to their queen for guidance. Leora stood on the balcony, her silver cloak flowing in the wind. She had faced many challenges in her life, but this one was unlike any other. The energy storm was unpredictable, shifting and changing at speeds beyond Ardentian understanding. Their most advanced technology could barely keep the city safe. Ethan, as calm as ever, approached her quietly. "We can fix this," he said. His voice carried a quiet confidence that contrasted sharply with the tension around them. Leora turned to him, hope and skepticism mixing in her eyes. "How? Even our best engineers and scientists have failed." Ethan smiled gently. "We combine what we know with what we imagine. Sometimes logic alone isn't enough. We need creativity, adaptability, and courage." The Queen nodded, sensing that his words were not just encouragement, but a plan. She led him to the control chamber, where Ardentia's top engineers worked, frantically trying to stabilize the city's energy shields. Lights flickered and small explosions of energy sparked along the conduits. Ethan observed quietly, studying the complex system. He noted the patterns in the energy surges, the way the shields absorbed and reflected the fluctuations. Then slowly he began to direct the engineers. "Adjust the flow here, reroute this circuit, and sync the shield arrays with the natural planetary cycles," he instructed calmly. The engineers hesitated, unsure if his unconventional ideas would work. "Trust me," he said simply. With careful precision, Ethan led the adjustments. He combined human ingenuity with Ardentian technology in ways no one had thought possible. The shields began to stabilize, glowing brighter and stronger than before. Citizens watched from a distance, marveling as the energy storm swirled around. The city yet could not penetrate the protective barrier. "Look at that," exclaimed one young engineer. "It's perfect," Ethan nodded. "Keep monitoring. The storm will try to adapt, but so can we." Hours passed. The energy storm raged, shifting and expanding, but Ethan remained calm, analyzing, predicting, and adjusting. His human perspective, combined with alien technology, created solutions faster than anyone had thought possible. Leora stood beside him, awe and pride mixing in her heart. She had known Ethan was clever, but this was beyond intelligence. This was creativity, courage, and adaptability working in harmony. As the night deepened, the storm intensified, targeting the city's power grid. Lightning-like energy arcs struck the streets, threatening buildings and bridges. Citizens watched from safe zones, fear etched on their faces. "Ethan," Leora cried. "Can we stop it?" Ethan's eyes were focused, calm. "We already are, but we need one more adjustment. Trust me." He stepped forward to a central console, analyzing the storm's core patterns. With steady hands, he rerouted energy flows, synchronized shield pulses, and introduced a new method to disperse the storm's excess energy. It was risky. One wrong move could overload the system and cause a catastrophe. For a moment, silence fell over the chamber. All eyes were on Ethan. He looked ordinary, yet every movement, every decision radiated confidence and precision. Then the energy stabilized. The storm, once chaotic and threatening, now seemed controlled, almost tamed. Citizens cheered from afar as the shields held strong. Leora exhaled, tears of relief filling her eyes. "You did it," she whispered, awe in her voice. Ethan smiled modestly. "We did it, humans and Ardentians, together." Word of Ethan's success spread quickly. Citizens who had once been skeptical now saw him not just as a visitor or advisor, but as a leader, a guide, and a symbol of human ingenuity. Even the Queen's advisors, who had doubted him repeatedly, now bowed in respect. But Ethan did not stop. He moved beyond stabilizing the city. He suggested improvements to the energy system that would prevent future storms, using human problem-solving methods combined with Ardentian technology. He trained engineers, soldiers, and citizens in these methods, showing them how to think creatively, adapt quickly, and solve problems efficiently. Leora watched him, her admiration deepening. She realized that Ethan's power was not in brute strength or alien technology. It was in his mind, his courage, and his ability to inspire others. That night, after the city had recovered, Leora and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool and the soft glow of bioluminescent flowers lit their path. "You've changed everything," Leora said softly. Ethan shook his head. "I only helped in the way I know. Humans adapt, we solve problems, and we try to improve the world around us. You did the hard work, leading your people, staying calm, and trusting me." Leora smiled, her heart full of pride. "No, Ethan. You have shown me the real power of humans. Not just intelligence, but courage, creativity, and leadership. You've proven that ordinary appearances can hide extraordinary strength." Ethan looked at her, his expression calm yet determined. "The storm taught me something. Power is not just about strength or technology. It's about adapting, thinking differently, and acting decisively when it matters most." The Queen felt a surge of understanding. Ethan was not merely clever or skilled. He was a force of ingenuity and calm courage, the kind of human who could change the fate of an entire world. Over the following days, Ardentia began to adopt Ethan's methods. In other areas, trade routes were optimized, defense strategies improved, and citizens learned to solve problems creatively. Ethan's influence spread quietly, yet powerfully, touching every corner of the planet. Even neighboring planets took notice. Messages of admiration and requests for guidance poured in. Humans, once considered weak and limited, were now seen as intelligent, adaptable, and capable of leadership on a galactic scale. Leora, standing on her balcony one evening, watched Ethan teach young aliens how to approach challenges with logic and creativity. She realized that his true power was not just in solving problems, but in inspiring others to reach their potential. "Humans are incredible," she whispered to herself. "I never knew the extent of their strength." Ethan approached her, sensing her thoughts. "It's not just humans. Any species can achieve this if they think creatively and work together. But humans, we are taught to adapt, to overcome, and to create solutions no one else sees." Leora nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect and admiration. She had married an ordinary human, or so she had believed, but now she understood. Ethan's true power was extraordinary, and it had transformed not only Ardentia but the perception of humanity itself. That night, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Leora stood beside Ethan. The city shimmered below them, safe and vibrant. Citizens celebrated their survival and the wisdom of their queen and her human husband. Ethan placed a hand gently on Leora's shoulder. "The work isn't finished," he said softly. "But together, we can guide Ardentia, and perhaps other worlds, to a brighter future." Leora smiled, her heart full of pride and love. "Yes, together," she agreed, and for the first time she realized fully that the human she had married was far more than ordinary. He had unleashed his true power, not with violence or domination, but with intelligence, courage, and the ability to inspire. He had shown that humans, though small and seemingly ordinary, could achieve greatness beyond imagination. The storm had passed, but its lessons remained. Ethan had demonstrated what humans were capable of when their minds, hearts, and courage were fully engaged. The people of Ardentia had witnessed the extraordinary potential of an ordinary man, and their world, and their understanding of humanity, would never be the same again. For Queen Leora, the realization was clear. The human she loved and married was not only extraordinary, he was a symbol of what humanity could achieve, and as long as he stood by her side, Ardentia and the galaxy itself would benefit from the quiet, unstoppable power of human ingenuity. The night air was calm, the city safe, and the Queen's heart full. She had discovered the truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not ordinary, and the man she had married had only just begun to show the true depth of his power. The skies over Ardentia were clear, the twin suns casting a warm golden glow over the city. After the energy storm and its chaos, the planet had begun a new chapter. Citizens moved through the streets with confidence, their faces bright with hope and curiosity. Schools, workshops, and laboratories buzzed with renewed activity. Leora watched from her palace balcony, feeling both pride and anticipation. Ethan stood beside her, calm and observant as always. Over the past weeks, he had helped stabilize not only the city's defenses but its people's minds. He had taught citizens to think creatively, to solve problems efficiently, and to embrace challenges rather than fear them. Even the skeptics had begun to acknowledge humans' unique abilities. "Look at them," Leora said softly, pointing toward a group of young aliens working together on a small energy project. "They've learned so much in so little time." Ethan smiled. "They are capable of more than anyone expected. They just needed guidance and encouragement. Humans, and perhaps all species, thrive when given that chance." The Queen nodded. She had always known humans were clever, but Ethan had shown her something deeper, a quiet strength, resilience, and creativity that could transform worlds. It was not strength measured in weapons or power. It was the power of the mind and heart, the ability to inspire, adapt, and improve. Over the following days, Ardentia began to embrace change. Trade routes were optimized using Ethan's methods, improving relationships with neighboring planets. Engineers implemented new energy systems, making the city more efficient and resilient. Citizens learned human logic puzzles, problem-solving, games, and creative thinking exercises, improving both intelligence and cooperation across the population. Even alien leaders from nearby systems took notice. Messages arrived, requesting advice and guidance on governance, defense, and innovation. Ardentia's influence spread quietly but powerfully, demonstrating the potential of collaboration between humans and aliens. One morning, a young ambassador from a neighboring system arrived at the palace. She had heard of Ethan's abilities and wanted to understand his methods firsthand. "Sir Ethan," she said, respectfully bowing, "your reputation precedes you. How do humans accomplish so much with so little?" Ethan smiled gently. "We observe, we adapt, and we act. Challenges teach us lessons, and we never stop learning. Creativity and courage are more powerful than any weapon or technology. Even with small tools, humans can solve big problems if they try." The ambassador nodded thoughtfully, taking notes and asking questions. Leora watched with pride. Humans had often been underestimated, but Ethan had changed that perception forever. That evening, Leora and Ethan walked along the River of Lights. The city shimmered below, reflecting their glowing figures in the water. "You've done so much," Leora said softly, her voice filled with admiration. "Not just for Ardentia, but for everyone who has seen your work. You've changed how they view humans." Ethan shook his head, humble as always. "I've only shown what humans are capable of when they work together. You and your people made it possible. You trusted me, and together we achieved this." Leora smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. She had married a human, she believed. Ordinary, but now she understood fully. Ethan's ordinary appearance was a mask for extraordinary potential. He had shown that intelligence, courage, and creativity could surpass technology, status, and size. The next week brought a new challenge. A distant planet requested help in organizing disaster relief after a minor meteor impact. Leora turned to Ethan, confident in his abilities. "Can you help them?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Yes. Humans have experience solving unexpected problems. We can adapt quickly and coordinate resources efficiently." With Leora's support, Ethan designed a plan to help the affected planet. He combined human strategy with alien technology, creating efficient relief systems that could deploy quickly. Volunteers from Ardentia joined the effort, inspired by his calm leadership and clear thinking. Within days, the disaster was under control. The planet's citizens praised Ardentia and Ethan, calling him a hero. Yet he remained humble, attributing success to teamwork and adaptability. Through these efforts, the Queen saw something remarkable. Ethan's influence extended beyond mere problem-solving. He inspired others to believe in themselves, to think creatively, and to embrace their own potential. Humans, she realized, were extraordinary not because of raw power, but because they could awaken greatness in others. One evening, after the relief mission was complete, Ethan returned to Ardentia with Leora. They walked in the palace gardens, the air filled with the soft glow of bioluminescent flowers. "You've done more than I ever imagined," Leora said softly. "You've changed Ardentia, its citizens, and even neighboring worlds. Humans truly are remarkable." Ethan smiled. "We can be, yes. But anyone can be remarkable if they adapt, think creatively, and act with courage. That is what makes humans, and all species, capable of greatness." Leora looked at him, her heart full of pride and love. She realized that the ordinary human she married had become a symbol of hope and inspiration for an entire galaxy. In the following months, Ardentia entered a new era. Education systems were redesigned using Ethan's methods, blending human problem-solving techniques with Ardentian wisdom. Cities became more efficient, resilient, and creative. Cooperation between worlds increased, fostering peace and understanding across the galaxy. Ethan continued to lead quietly, never seeking recognition or reward. He remained humble, teaching, guiding, and inspiring. But the impact of his presence was undeniable. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were seen as a species capable of innovation, courage, and leadership. One evening, Leora hosted a ceremony in the palace to honor the collaborative efforts of humans and Ardentians. Citizens, engineers, soldiers, and diplomats gathered, celebrating the achievements that had transformed their world. She stepped forward to address the crowd. "Today, we celebrate not just our survival, but our growth. We celebrate creativity, courage, and collaboration. And we celebrate humans who have shown us the true meaning of adaptability, ingenuity, and resilience." The crowd erupted in applause. Ethan stood beside her, quietly smiling, humbled by the recognition. For him, the real reward was seeing people thrive, learn, and grow. Later, as the festivities continued, Leora and Ethan walked alone in the palace gardens. "You've shown everyone what humans can do," Leora said softly. "But you've also shown me something more. You've shown me what true strength is: courage, creativity, and the ability to inspire others." Ethan looked at her, calm and gentle. "Strength comes in many forms. Humans survive not because we are the strongest or fastest, but because we learn, adapt, and help others succeed. That is our real power." Leora nodded, understanding fully for the first time. The human she had married was extraordinary, not in ways she had imagined, but in ways that truly mattered. He had transformed Ardentia, inspired countless beings, and shown the galaxy the hidden potential of humanity. The twin moons rose above the horizon, casting silver light across the city. The streets shimmered, reflecting a brighter future, one where humans and aliens could work together in harmony and creativity. Ethan took Leora's hand, their fingers intertwined. "Together, we can continue to guide this world and others to a better future," he said softly. Leora smiled, her heart full. "Yes, together," she agreed. "We have learned that ordinary appearances can hide extraordinary power, and humans, your people, are truly extraordinary." As the city glowed, below, the Queen and her husband looked toward the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning. Humanity had shown its true potential, and with courage, creativity, and cooperation, there were no limits to what they could achieve. Ardentia had entered a new era, one of hope, innovation, and unity, and at the heart of it all stood an ordinary-looking human who had quietly unleashed the extraordinary power of his species. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again.